So, yeah, I'm assuming that Toad Agent is recording us due to certain circumstances today. But we're going to talk about Withnail and I. Well, so tell me, Zarathustra, when did you first hear about Withnail and I? Because it seemed like you said that you were meaning to watch it for some time, which means that you already knew about this film before I brought it up.
Well, it's a known film. It's a cult film, and I am quite familiar with the history of cinema and all that, and it is about the 60s. I started watching it once, but I couldn't get into it. But I always wanted to see it because it's first of all, I try to watch cult movies, and secondly, because it's about the 60s, and so it's relevant to stuff that I explore. And so this gave me kind of the excuse to watch it finally.
Yes, the way that I came across it was that basically on Academic Agent's channel, Academic Agent himself and others would just quote the movie. So yeah, I decided to check it out. So you said that you couldn't get into the movie the first time you watched it. Can you remember why?
Just a minute. Yeah. It's very British, and I don't think I really connect. I still don't think I connect to the humor. I think it's something that you have to be British to really get into. I mean, and it's actually I'm not a big fan of these type of movies that about kind of slackers and losers, and they usually don't really interest me.
I see. So yeah, I guess the plot.
What do you like about it?
I think what I like about it, it's basically that the comedy bits. It's a very quotable film. Though I would kind of rather prefer not to quote it, because I've tried reading some reviews, like for example, I read Roger Ebert's. I just skimmed through it, and even he couldn't, like, even he was just quoting the film. But I guess what else did I like about it? I mean, it's kind of it's a comedy, but it's kind of a little bit sad as well. So that kind of makes it seem a little bit deeper or something. So maybe that's one of the other things which I liked about it. But I also like the kind of the chemistry, I guess you could say, between the two main characters. Then it's sort of a bit like they're a bit like. They look a bit like Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, and I mean, obviously it's different here because they're both losers and so on. Yeah, but it's that sort of thing. Yes. So I guess we could talk briefly about the plot. There isn't much.
Yeah, this is a postmodern movie. So and this is late 80s. This is when cinema went postmodern in a sense that it just tells a story that really doesn't try to say anything about I mean, the modern movie, modern art had this grand narrative of society advancing and all that, and usually theater plays mainly, and books, novels, fine novels. Every character was kind of a facet of humanity, and with the drama between them was supposed to lead us to some understanding that can, which can, we can progress, we can understand better. Then came, once the grand narrative kind of collapsed, and we no longer believe that we are progressing towards this perfect society. People started to crave just stories that you don't know what to expect. That just just follow the heroes, and all sorts of weird things happen to them without any really coherent thread. Just basically like life, and that doesn't really lead anywhere. And I think that this is a good example. Just this type of movie. And there were quite a lot of movies like that in the late 80s and beginning and early 90s. Yeah.
Yes, I would agree that, for example, the ending kind of came a bit out of nowhere. But I mean, it does. I wouldn't. I guess. What do you think? Given that you are interested in the 60s and so on, do you think that this movie is celebrating the 60s, or saying that, it was just a failure, but it was still a good thing, or something? Or don't you think that there was any message about the 60s? Because
these guys were failures in the look. In the 60s, you had those who were kind of part of the spirit of the time, and like they were taking drugs. They were trying to reach something. So there was trying to reach some sort of enlightenment and all that. And this was kind of the mid 60s and all that. But by the late 60s, a lot of people were just taking drugs because it was the trendy thing to do, and they became just without anything behind it. And a lot of people just became addicts, or just people who were kind of it made them bums. Yeah, it made them and these guys, they were just the drugs. You see, there's nothing. It's just to get a buzz. And the life is going nowhere. And actually, there were a lot of people. So it's the dark side of the 60s. Basically, it's in my series on psychedelia, I believe I have a chapter called The Dark Side, or the Bad Trip. Yeah, The Bad Trip. Which, there's this there was this other side of those who were not part of the culture, who were not part of the spirit. And those who were part at least had fun. They felt like they were getting somewhere, that they had they were creating something for a while.
Don't you feel like they did kind of have fun, and it was because it was kind of made to seem like a sad thing that at the end, when their friendship came to an end, because despite everything, they were kind of having fun. At least it was fun watching them, I guess.
I know. The friendship. I mean, this Withnail is an asshole. I would have left him. I don't know. I don't think I would have stayed with him that long. He's.
I see. By the way, the fans of the film later found out, I think through a telegram or something, that the I's name, so it's Withnail and I, and the I's name is Marwood. Yeah. I just mentioned that because it's kind of easy to talk about Withnail and Marwood than always, Yes. So you think? I see. I mean, about the jokes. So you don't think you got the jokes? Like, for instance, like when Withnail says, "Those are the kind of windows that faces look in," or something. I, yeah. Or for example, when Withnail and Marwood at the start, before calling Monty, um, Marwood is asking Withnail to call what's his name, and Withnail just goes along with it as if he knows what's his name is. But
Yeah.
you didn't get that humor.
No, not really. No, and it didn't make me laugh. No. I mean,
Yeah,
it was entertaining to watch, but just yeah, Richard E. Grant that does a really character is really, but yeah, it's no, I didn't find it funny. No, it's just yes, you have to be British for that. I just don't.
Did you see any? I guess. Uh, uh, do you think that the movie said anything about the class differences? I guess between, say, Marwood, Withnail, or for instance, Marwood on one side and Withnail and Monty on the other. Or did you see any of that?
Not really. No. It's again. I think let's get the whole. Withnail speaks in a kind of a higher language, kind of a Shakespearean language. And does that mean that he comes from a upper thinking kind of a?
I think basically because the creator, I think, rather the director says that he kind of based it sort of around his experiences. So it's kind of with Withnail's character and Monty's character. So the I is basically the self-insert for the director, and with Withnail's character and Monty's character, he's sort of poking fun at what he perceived basically the British ruling class, which was going down as after the war. And I mean, you can I think you can kind of see it in other comedies as well, like Blackadder.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, that's at that time it was kind of a blending, yes. So before that, the class differences were very distinct. People just the way people dressed and talked and all that, and in the 60s, it all blended, and yeah. But okay, so see, this is something that I didn't really get. That's you need to be British for that. I didn't really understand that Withnail is kind of an upper class wit. And yeah, it is more upper class. I realize it now. Yeah, I can see it now.
Yeah, I think it is basically implied in the film that like when Marwood asks him asks his father asks Withnail why doesn't he ask his father for some money, and Withnail replies, if your father was my father, you wouldn't get it. Yeah, and obviously that's the reason why Withnail has to lie to Monty about Marwood having been to Eton. So that's one angle to look at it, the class angle. So it's basically the people who would become would become the middle class, the people who basically got into university because they basically lowered the standards to get into university so that more people could join. So you had people getting kind of a liberal arts education, high education, which they might not have gotten before. I guess, I mean, I've heard people, right-wing people, like Peter Hitchens, kind of say that this was a bad thing because basically it was kind of a genre of humiliating the British ruling class and undermining their legitimacy, so that basically these new people, this new middle class, could come and replace them. I don't know whether.
The way I see it, I understand what they're saying. I also have kind of, I'm Nietzschean. I'm a Nietzschean liberal. By the way, I'm making a video now called My Nietzschean Liberalism, in which I will kind of talk about Nietzsche's morality and politics and why and how I can draw my liberalism out of that. And Nietzsche, was against this reducing everyone to the same level. And I'm like that as well. I mean, I don't want to reduce people. But I think that's inevitable. So we need to find it couldn't have continued to be the way it was. You have to create, shut up. Hang on a minute.
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm going to throw her outside just a minute.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I don't know if Tower Agent, are you still recording? just let me know, and let us also know if well, are you back?
Just a minute.
Right. So Tower Agent, if we are talking for too long and you need to leave, let us know in the chat if you can't record anymore.
Yeah. So okay. So let me go back to what I was saying. There's need to be, a new the way to for people who are kind of, it can't be about classes, separating people into classes anymore. The kind of high class has to come from the kind of the democratic masses. Yeah, you have to basically just find something that you're good at, and find the others that are good at it, and create this group that is more elevated around that thing than the masses, and everyone does that. Yeah, so this is how you create kind of quality and avoid this kind of what Nietzsche talks about the kind of the last man, this idea of just humanity being just reduced to this weak and pathetic creature. Because I don't. Yeah, okay. So like I said, it couldn't carry on the way it was. So to say that the kind of this was kind of a mistake or anything to do, no.
You think it was historically inevitable that we would end up?
Inevitable. The people became more. The people just became. in the modern time, the people they started to get you had to have more educated people, and once people get more educated, they they want more education and they want um,
So you don't think it was something done top down? You think it was maybe
yes.
you think maybe it was something that happened because of technical progress?
Yes. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, like I said about women. Yeah, you can in the 19th century, women and children. The men went out and did work and did politics and all that. The women and children were kept away from it. So they were kept in ignorant bliss. They had their own world. The men went out and basically did what was seen as the dirty work. And then the men could go back and be with their families in that other world, which was just, detached from the world of politics and all that. But, once modernity advanced, things started to invade your living room, yeah? Well, with the first newspapers and then radio and all that. Yeah, and all the technology and the cars and all that. So yeah, you could no longer maintain this bubble, and once the bubble was broken and women became aware of they became aware, and politics started to the state started to take part in what happened in your living room and in what happened in the woman's life. So the women rightfully wanted power to affect it. Yeah. And then they wanted to vote and all that and education and all that. So yeah, you can't. It was inevitable. You can't avoid it. That was just the progress, and you need to always just find a way to uh, keep yes the spirit vital, keep it revitalized, not let it decay because of this process, which can reduce humanity if you don't constantly update and revitalize and regenerate.
I probably agree with you about what needs to be done. But I'm still not sure whether it was inevitable. I mean, do you think, for instance, that what the Taliban is doing right now is sustainable, or is it just like it's not going to last? It can't last. They can't just try to turn back the clock. That's impossible.
What they are doing with extreme violence. They just so it can you can maintain it because you keep the people cowering in fear. I mean, look, it's happening in Gaza as well, but next to me, yes, but so yeah, but the people don't. A lot of people, a lot of people are happy with it because a lot of people just. But a lot of people are not, and if you gave them the choice, so you either keep them. Machiavelli said there are two ways to rule. You're either scary or loved. As a rule, yeah.
But at the same time, like I don't know, in many Muslim countries, not many, but in some at least, whenever they get the choice to democratically elect a government, it's something like the Muslim Brotherhood or something like that. Not
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So do they really want it?
I mean, some of them do, some of them don't. And again, you have to remember that there's still a great level of illiteracy in the Muslim world, in the Arab world. So people are still quite kind of are still in the past, but that is changing. The young generation of Arabs is now literate, and that's partly what brought about the Arab Spring, which but previous generations were not. And the other things, the people, the young people also want, the Islam has things to offer. I mean, domination and world conquest and all that.
I mean,
Yeah,
what about the view that, for example, the people who for instance were trying to escape Afghanistan? Well, I've heard some people on the right say, well, they were just collaborators with the United States, with America's imperialism. Liberalism is basically American imperialism. So why do you want it? I mean, do you take any of that seriously, or do you think that's just nonsense?
Some people want it and some people don't. I think it was wrong of America to try to. I'm against try. I think that's imperialism to force it on people. I think the Americans have this. Stanley Kubrick has a great line in Full Metal Jacket, which, okay, I don't. Are you planning to put this on YouTube? Because
yes, I am sorry. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm not going to repeat it because it's racist. But basically, the American colonel says we are here to help these people because inside every swear word for Vietnamese, there's an American trying to come out. Yeah, so inside every Vietnamese, there's an American trying to come out. And this is what the Americans believed, and they believed it when they went into Afghanistan. I think they finally, it finally dropped. They finally realized that no, not everyone is an American trying to come out. Not everyone has an American inside trying to come out. And yes, so this is so this was a mistake to try to force it on people, trying this belief that they will take it. Culture is not ready for that, and like I said, but I don't think that if you want to.
But you still think that it's inevitable that if you just left them alone, well, they will inevitably just become liberal as well.
No, because they can become a dictatorship, a totalitarian. The modern state is either liberal or totalitarian, and I mean, and it can be successful. We see that China is quite successful with the totalitarian rule. Although has to be said that they are relying on Western technology. Yeah, so not sure that if they didn't have Western technology, that they would be successful. But
would you say that
it's not inevitable? It's not inevitable. It can go Orwellian. It can yeah. So yeah.
But you don't think that it can just I don't know, remain as it was, basically just a bunch of tribes or whatever?
No, not with the advancement of technology. No.
I see.
So you can there are science fiction stories about regimes that just deny prevent any technological advancement and go back to the Stone Age or to medieval age
I mean, but I guess, would you say that, for instance, in Europe before liberalism, it was all a totalitarian dictatorship? Like, for instance, if you take something like the Holy Roman Empire, was that a totalitarian dictatorship, or do you think?
No, there was no. It was not totalitarian. You couldn't be totalitarian without modern technology. Totalitarian is when you control every aspect of life. And you know, in medieval times was the king, and but the people lived in the villages and did what they did, and if some crime occurred, so the you know the king's people would come riding on the horses. It would take a couple of days sometimes until they got there, and they would find the criminal and you know, arrest him or punish him, whatever. There was no the king did not have control over what was going on inside your village.
Yeah, but I guess doesn't the Taliban, for instance, say that they want to restore some kind of feudalism?
Oh,
Or do you
sorry.
think? Yeah, sorry.
So something's happening here. Hang on.
Yep.
Something's happening to
All
me.
right.
Something to happen to my computer.
I see.
What's wrong here? Hang on. I don't know what's happening, but I can still hear you. So
Yes.
my screen went dark. I don't know why.
I think it should be fine. Toad agent should still be recording us. Yes. Do you think that liberalism spread? Because I've heard some people on the right say that basically liberalism spread through imperialism, and if it wasn't for European imperialism, then you wouldn't have liberalism in places like India, for instance.
Everything spreads through imperialism. That's how the world progressed for millennia. That you know, you had a more advanced society gaining power and then using that power to conquer, and spreading that power, spreading its you know, its culture and its technology. And then you had you know, the people, so within that empire, people would blend that the thing that they got from this ruler, this imperialist ruler, with their culture, and create something. And sometimes that became more powerful, and then they became the empire and spread their thing around. That's how it was for millennia.
And you don't think that it's like that right now with the United States, for instance?
It is, but you know, it's okay. Now it's not exactly the same. It spreads more culture, and sometimes the United States uses its military might, but a lot of it now just spreads through culture, through pop culture.
And I mean, some people call that cultural imperialism or whatever, but you don't think that that's a real thing?
No, culture just spreads. That's what it does. I mean, it's not.
I mean, the argument is that basically the United States has more economic power, so that means that if your country does not actively put a wall and stop American culture from entering into it, then your culture will be destroyed by American culture, because obviously they have more money to spread their culture.
Yeah, but again, culture is not destroyed. It's you know, it infuses the culture of the empire, and appropriates it and takes and makes something else, and sometimes, you know, and then can become you know, create something of its own and spread that. So that's just how things should be.
So you don't think that a certain group should try to protect its culture from outside influences, like for instance American influences?
No, create culture, create better culture. If not, then your culture does not, you know, is not.
I mean,
if the young people in your society choose, let's say, the American culture over your culture, and that means that the American culture is the thing that folks is more relatable to them, and which
But
means that
couldn't it also mean that, well, it's just because well, the Americans they have more money to promote their culture. For instance, let us say that there's a small film industry in your country, but then the American movies come in, and basically they have more a high budget, so they're going to totally destroy.
they're not going. They don't totally destroy. Still, like in my country, so in Israel, there are still Israeli movies being made, and people go and watch them, even though the production level is much lower than the American movies.
Yeah,
Because they you know that they can relate to them better because
yeah, I know, but the problem is that basically your movies, your culture becomes like an inferior copy of American culture. If you see what I mean. But a lot of people in Britain, for instance, kind of feel like that
yeah,
the
but that's not.
country has basically been Americanized.
No. Look, the Beatles took rock and roll, but made it British. Took the American rock and roll and infused and merged it with the music hall, British music hall and also British pop and all that, and European influences and.
But I guess the thing is that now, I mean, there was something like that, like at the end after the empire fell, and basically Britain still had some momentum. But now, most young people, for instance, they will just listen to whatever Americans are putting out. Nobody really cares that much about.
Yeah, but music doesn't matter. Music doesn't matter anymore. I mean, people care more about, let's say, today, pop culture of today is stuff like fantasy literature, and who are the biggest authors of fantasy? J.K. Rowling, J.R.R. Martin, those are British people. Tolkien,
yeah, I guess so. I guess when it comes to fantasy literature, the British video gaming. I don't know. Video gaming seems to be.
So you're not strong at video game. So
Yes.
other countries are. Okay, so the Koreans, let's say, have their own pop culture going on, which has to do with video games, and every culture, you take from the Americans and then you make your own thing, and at some point, someone else will take over and become the dominant culture, and then the same thing will happen there. It's
I mean,
yeah.
Earlier you were saying that people should so that you can have I guess revitalize the culture and so on. You need to have small organized groups which act kind of outside.
So not organized groups, communities, just communities that form and around something, and just yeah.
So I mean, couldn't you argue that basically the nation is also such a community, and so it should also try to protect its uniqueness, like any community would want to protect its uniqueness and not just become this generic thing, which could be from anywhere. Like for instance, if you look at the
you don't need to block the outside world to protect your uniqueness. You just need to first of all maintain a strong national identity, and just make it a thing to make your national identity a thing that you want to promote, and then you will create stuff, and then again you will take stuff from outside and put your own spin on it, coming from your heritage, your national heritage, and will create and your national identity will remain vital.
I mean,
That's yeah.
But the problem is that like it's, if you look at the majority, most people culture in Britain, it's mostly trends coming from the United States, and yeah, it's mostly trends. But your national identity cannot just be a trend. Like it's not like, oh, you were like a mod for a while and then you became something else. There should be something constant about your national identity, right?
Look, there's the the old values, all that, and they are. What happens is the new trends come, and eventually they get. Some of it is just get thrown outside, but some of it gets woven into the national identity, and somehow they find a way to let's say to make it British, and then it becomes part of the heritage. Yeah, everything in what you see as your national identity at some point was new, and at some point was affected from the outside. But then it becomes it becomes the identity. It becomes a tradition. It becomes a thing that you want to conserve.
Yeah, but the problem is that things are changing so fast, and it's not in anyone's control at all. Like not even really the politicians. They don't really control the culture either. So
okay, okay, you read my book where I talk about the ant colony, yeah, the global ant colony, and yeah, so we have now this thing where it's really now fast, and so maybe this rule that I'm talking about is in danger. Maybe things, but okay, so you have to think a way to still preserve your identity. Like I said, you have to find a way to not be an ant, and or either become the queen ant, which it can work for communities as well. Yeah. So, but yeah. So history changes, and you have to find a way to deal with it. Like I said, there's no going back.
Yeah, I mean, unless, but I guess if you try to go back, you're not really going back. You're going to become a totalitarian dictatorship. Is that what you're saying? You can't really go back. So, I see. So yeah, speaking of the metaphor about the global ant colony, like that kind of reminded me of a very common insult on the right, which is basically calling people bugmen. I don't know if you have heard of it.
No, I'm familiar with NPC and all that.
I guess it's kind of similar to NPC. It's like the kind of person who they will put in memes as the soy jack, with the wide open mouth, who gets excited about the next Marvel movie, or whatever, who lives in a pod. Like you must have heard that quote from the World Economic Forum or something that which predicts that you will own nothing and be happy about it. And so yeah, so it's kind of odd that you too can see can see that same kind of trend, but you don't seem to take it as negatively as many people on the right have taken it to be. Like it's just taking away people's agency further and further until they're happy to not have any agency almost.
I mean, look, again, you have more power than ever, in a way. So yeah, you just it really is just it's up to you. If you become if you just allow yourself to become an ant, then become an ant. But if you you know work on yourself and create a character and all that, then you can use your because the thing about an ant colony is that every ant has power, yeah, because things are going through it. So if you start to create messages, then you become the center that spreads messages around through the ant colony.
But wouldn't you say that it is basically fine in the current system? It's basically financial interest which decides whatever the next trend, whatever the message is going to be. You don't think that?
No.
You think that we more or less are equal, and when it comes to reach and because there's kind of this feeling that, well, people are just becoming whatever the hell the algorithm is sending their way, or something like that. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, it is a problem, but again, you have to it's in your power to deal with it. To you know, to force to force the algorithm to send you other things. Just be active about it. And are you still with me?
Yes, I'm still with you. Yes.
Okay, just because it's hard. Like I said, my computer is funny. Again, it's up to you. So and you know, the messages, people will internalize messages if they feel it inside. Again, it's not, people are not mindless, and you know, there's always a talk about this, a new sensibility. People feel, you know, a need for something, and then someone comes and says the things that they feel inside, and they connect to that, and those people that come and do that never come from the establishment, you know, never come from and never what the industry creates. It's always someone who manages to break through with the message that speaks to people, and then they create a community, and then, you know, so
you don't think that people are, because I mean, don't most people believe what they are told? I mean, you know, Nietzsche calling people basically cattle, which is one of the reasons why people on that are heard. But yes,
yeah.
I mean,
look, Nietzsche and also Heidegger, and this was the beginning of mass culture, and they were afraid that people will be reduced to a herd.
And you don't think that they have been?
No. There's always the counter force. With the things that I talked about, the fact that you know, new ideas come from below. There's always the counterbalance to that process of you know, of just making us all the same. There's always the counter force that makes us different. From the counter forces that comes from just ordinary people who get together around something, and that. So this is, by the way, I will talk about it in my new video which I'm working on. So 140 years, let's say, after Nietzsche. We look back, and what Zarathustra warned against, this this slow erosion into the what he called the last man, that did not happen again because, like I said, because there was a counterforce, many counterforces. A lot of things that he talked about that are bad in the culture are changed. For instance, the denigration of the human body is not. We don't live in that world anymore of this puritanical denigration of the body. People are not denigrating the human body anymore, or definitely not to the same level. So stuff like that. Yes. So Nietzsche was still thinking in modern terms, where it's just everything progresses into in one direction. Yeah, it will get to there is some place that it will get to. We don't see it like that today. Well, there's many processes and many directions, and it's not there's no like I said, there's always there's progress, and then you have to update yourself according to that progress of what progresses always is technology. Technology progresses forward, yeah, and that creates every progress in technology creates new possibilities and new dangers, and you have to you always have to update your values and your your ideas to make the best out of it, and not and prevent the worst from happening.
I see. I mean, so would you say that because I don't know, Nietzsche sounded pretty negative about the way that he thought things were going, but you don't have that negativity about the future. Would you say?
Oh, I think I see the future as as open.
And
it can go bad, it can go good.
And what about the past? Because I can remember that like Nietzsche basically tried to justify the past because I mean he imagined the worst fate. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, which would be that the past would return again, which is kind of funny because there's people on the right which basically kind of wish that history would repeat itself, so that even though from their perspective everything is going to trash, at some point things will return to how they were before, which from their perspective was not that bad, I guess. But do you feel any need to justify the past, or is that not do you not care about the past that much?
I do care about the past. It's the way that you understand the past is part of your identity. It's a thing that determines your identity, because you always see yourself as you have roots in certain. Well, identity has roots, so it depends where you see your roots. Where you find your roots. And but I'm not. It's not about justifying the past. It's also not about saying that I no longer, this idea that past was bad and the present is better and all that. That's not the stuff that I do. I just I think that we live in a good world today. It's a Western society. Think that things are part of what you learn from history is how things were, and you learn to appreciate what you have. compared to what people used to have.
I guess one of the complaints when you say that you would hear people on the right bring up is that, well, it is true that people are more materially rich, but at the price of being spiritually poor. But you don't believe that that's true.
No,
You think
not at
people
all.
are? Why not?
I think you have, first of all, a lot more time today to develop your spirit and this no this idea that spiritually poor is just put forward by people who don't understand the spirit of today. There's always spirit. There's always the things that are great. There's always greatness. There's always things that can elevate your spirit in contemporary culture. You just have to be, to update your ideas and to be able to understand it, to be able to understand its greatness. And if you don't, then you basically you find the greatness in the past, and then you think that the present is worse than the past. But no, it's not. Every generation, it's the thing is that you look around you and you see that 90% of culture is garbage. So you say, oh, what terrible! Why can't we live in the past? We had such great things. Well, but you forget that in those times also 90% of the culture is garbage. It's just that we forgot about all the garbage. Everything that was garbage is forgotten now, and the only thing that remains is the good stuff. So you look back and you think, oh, everything was good in the past. Culturally, everything was good in the past. No, there's always garbage. There's always mostly garbage. And the thing is, when you are connected to the spirit of the time, you already filter out the garbage because you already can understand. Look, I'm quite old now, but I belong to the to the age where music was the thing. Yeah, so I had the taste for music, so I could immediately see what was good and what was bad. Yeah, so when anything was bad, I just filtered out and listened only to the good stuff that was coming through. And but anyone who was, let's say, still didn't understand pop music and still believed that music is classical music. So they had no ability to discern the good from the bad, and then what they heard was, when they opened the radio, was mostly garbage. And yeah, so
Why do you think that? Well, there are so many young people, both on the right, but also on the left, maybe, who they don't feel the spirit of the time right now. They just feel like we are living in like trash. Either that we are degenerates, bugmen,
there's always those
consumers.
people.
Hmm.
There's always those people who. But there is a thing. Yes, now I think there's always these if I divide history into periods, yes, and when an old period comes to an end and a new one begins, it takes time for the spirit of a new period to really start to create greatness. So at first it's just a mess with a lot of exciting stuff, but really no greatness. Let's say there's let's say memes, yeah, which is one of the the spirit of the time. It expresses itself through memes. So there's a lot of memes were fun, but I can't say that there was a meme a masterpiece of art. Yeah. so it's kind of
like people will compare like Mozart to I don't know some your Marvel movie soundtrack or something, and
exactly.
be like,
And this is and the reason why I wrote a book about the MCU is that I think that this is one of the first things that was really great. They created a masterpiece within what I call the cyber period. And with taking the tool, the mediums of the cyber period, like fantasy and comics and computer graphics and all that, and so So we're living at this. This, by the way, Hegel already talked about that. Whenever there's a switch, the things that you take as the struggles that brought you to this point, you now take as self-evident, and you don't appreciate them anymore. So for instance, we have let's say the white and black relations in the United States. They've reached a point where blacks are now accepted as Americans, which was the struggle of the previous periods. Yeah, for America to accept blacks as Americans. But so now they do. But so now young people, for them it's self-evident that blacks are Americans. They see them as let's say a white American sees the black people, his black friends, as Americans like him, and then he doesn't understand how his society would treat them like that. Yeah. And then it leads to great feelings of guilt and to feeling that America sucks, that it treated black people like that. Well, when in fact it just that was it's inherited from this racism came even before America was formed. And America was, the driving force in changing that. America is actually great for actually overcoming this racism, but they don't know, they don't have an appreciation of that because they don't understand the past. They don't understand that how people saw it in the past. Why it was so hard for them to accept blacks. And the same goes for black youngsters. Yes, they don't know why are we part of America if it's such a terrible country and treated us so badly. So this is now something new that has to. So this is the thing that this period has to overcome. Yeah, this is the conflict of this period. And yeah, and like Hegel said, at the beginning, when one period ends and the other one begins, there's this feeling that kind of an empty feeling because you don't appreciate the work it took to get here, and things just look bad and yeah. So we are at this kind of period now. Let's talk a little bit more about Withnail and I.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's all right. It's not like it's the people who are going to listen to this are just going to be like a couple of people on the server anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So about the film, I guess, like, I guess it was one of those films about city people going to the countryside.
Yeah, let's talk about. Just related to what I said just now. There's this Monty who is gay, and you kind of you look at it today, and it seems like he's kind of a predator. But if you understand how it was in the past, they had no other choice than being predators and the gays. Yeah, they were seeking those encounters where they could find. He thought that Maud was gay. Yeah, because
Yes.
Withnail tricked him into that. Yeah? They were seeking that, and there was no other. So I still remember that. I still remember the gays just coming and coming to you and trying to hint, trying to see if you're into it. Yeah, because they couldn't come straight on. Um, you, you, if you make a pass, yeah, if you made a pass at another man, you could get badly beat up.
Yeah, basically, Monty was thinking that Maud was pretending not to be gay because,
Yep.
yes. But
That's another thing. Yeah, today we don't say, what do you mean? You think he was pretending? Yeah. If no is no. Yet in today's in today we think that we say no is no, but that's not how it was. People were supposed to say no. Women were supposed to say no. They were supposed to seduce them. And the same thing, gays were trying to seduce men who because a lot of men denied, denied to themselves that they had homosexual feelings. So you had to kind of, yeah. That's how it was.
on the right, there's a kind of this feeling that the gender roles are kind of getting inversed. Do you see that happening, or do you think that's not something which
The genders. I think there's a big mess right now with the genders because of it became ideological. Yeah. So we are at this point, gender studies just is trying. It came out of this idea that it to liberate, and gays and trans and all that. They had to subvert and they had to destroy bourgeois, morality, and that kind of became became kind of mainstream right now, and we're dealing with it right now. So there's a big mess, but like I said in my previous video, it eats itself, because the trans destroyed the feminists, and now they are, now it's gay versus trans, because the gays feel like they are destroying, and so it's right now there's a big mess, and we need to work our way out of it. The idea that gender is being subverted, that's every generation. Every generation, you have a subversion of gender.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Every generation you have
every generation. Every generation. People thought that Frank Sinatra was effeminate, and causing young men to go effeminate in the 40s. In the 60s, they said that about the Beatles.
But wouldn't you say that basically, if you compare it from then to now, it's like men have become more and more effeminate when compared to then overall.
Again, the advancement of technology makes it so that men don't have to be as tough as they used to be. And men needed to be tougher in the past. The world is becoming easier to operate, and you don't need to be as tough, and men are thus becoming less and less tough.
But
That is,
how can you defend yourself from some kind of outside enemy if your men are becoming less and less tough?
well, if there's an outside enemy, they have to toughen up again. So don't again, if an enemy emerges, I mean, here in Israel, men are still quite masculine because we have enemies. Everyone goes to the army. You can't be a wuss. But if an enemy starts kind of seriously threatening the West again, men will become tougher again. Of course, your problem is that you kind of it feels like you're kind of being undermined from within now. So that's a bit of a but look, don't again. Notice the counter movement. Men are, a lot of men are, because of that, kind of saying, kind of emphasizing the masculinity, and I mean, look, men are growing beards are now. Like for 10 years have been there, which I hate, by the way. I find beards to be really, I don't know, and look like cavemen with those beards. But everybody has a beard now. There's, like I said, yes, there is this ideology now that's try to subvert the genders. But there is that, and there is also the natural progress of things where men are becoming less tough than they were, and not just in the West. So the enemy.
Like for instance, like a lot of people were saying were kind of I guess dabbing on the Americans and on the American army, because like they're releasing these I guess feminist, or I guess trans maybe ads, and but they can't even like do a proper proper evacuation. So I guess people are kind of implying like look, that there might be a connection between the two, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, look, I don't know how the Americans do it, but in Israel, everyone gets drafted, no matter if you're men, women, gay, trans, and you just the training that you get depends on how tough you are. So there's 12 levels of training. When you go first into the army, you have levels of training, and the 12 is the top one, and the 12 is like the commandos, the infantry, the top infantry unit, and all that, the parachuters, paratroopers. So that's 12. The top for women is 7, and 7 is pretty badass. But women, so it's not like the Israeli army, the IDF is getting feminized. by the fact that it recruits women, because the top units are still made of men, because it's too tough for women. Women can't handle the level of training that they go through.
And, and,
And
and speaking of which, I mean, another thing, another complaint which I've seen people on the right make is that because of mass media, because of girl power movies or whatever, like people are effectively like living in fiction, and they think that there's no difference between men and women, and that this is because these things have not been censored. So for instance, they would point to like China, for instance, which recently banned quote unquote sissy men. That's what the Chinese Communist Party called it. And well, basically, there's people on the right saying, well, we should do the same here. We should also basically force the media to promote promote healthy gender roles again. But you don't believe that?
No, just let it's a fad. Just let things again. Look, there's always also the masculine movies still being made, and yeah, it's there's this silly thing that has been going on for 20 years now, where women are shown as we are strong as men in physically.
I guess the argument is that the argument is that basically people are too dumb to make a difference between fiction and reality.
Yeah. Okay.
So that means
find me the person who thinks that men and women are have similar physical strength. There are some really stupid feminists who believe that, but a handful. Or people know the reality. Women know the reality, and yeah, no woman would think that she can walk down the dark street at night because she's strong enough to fend off a predator, a male predator.
but at the same time, like you can't. For instance, it's seen as like almost like wrong to tell a woman that she shouldn't be going out at night at night like that.
Because okay, that's kind of the stupidity. Yes, in public, you on the internet you can't say that, but you can say that to women in your life, and unless they are really really stupid, they will understand that.
But I mean, but for example, if you tell that to a female co-worker because like you're worried about her, she can just go and report you to the human resources department, and you can get in trouble for that. So it's not just something on the internet.
I doubt that you get for that, but yeah, I mean, yeah, the stupidity is going around right now. Yes,
but I guess the point is that the reason that you have this stupidity is because people they are affected by the art and entertainment which they consume a lot more than they would freely admit.
Yeah, no, but I don't think that's the reason why. I think the thing here is that they said that you are blaming the victim. If you tell a woman not to go out at night, you are blaming the victim. That's just that's a different type of stupidity. That's not because of movies. That comes from a different place, which we need to kind of fight back, defeat it, and with the thing is that now. Actually, I think that now it can be easily defeated because it's now considered transphobic to suggest that men want to attack women. Because what do you mean that someone born male wants to go into a woman's bathroom?
Yeah,
Of course. Well,
I mean,
why? Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
I mean, so one thing you tell, but I thought there was a rape culture where every man is taught, where every male is taught to rape. So doesn't that mean?
but isn't it
Make them deny that there's a rape culture. Yeah?
isn't it a problem though that things can easily just flip so easily? Wouldn't it be better if the state basically used the media in order to create like in order to maintain the nation, um, to make sure that only values which are in favor of the nation are promoted in the media. I mean,
No, it's better to just let it be, just freely and just free speech. Every generation has stupidity. Look, in my latest video I pointed that out. Yes, I am concerned about that a lot of youngsters today are identify as trans just because it's trendy. They truly believe that they're trans just because that's a trendy thing right now, and they might be causing themselves irreparable harm. But every generation of young people has some stupid fad that makes them cause irreparable harm to themselves. At least they are not killing themselves, like doing something dangerous, like going on chicken rides or chicken runs with cars, like in the 50s, or taking drugs, like in the 60s, or it's every generation has that stupid stuff. And yeah, you just have to. It will blow over. That's the thing about right wingers. Again, they have this feeling that everything the left creates becomes eventually wins. No. By the way, the extreme left believe that as well. No. 90% of the ideas that come from the left are chewed up and thrown aside. You just don't remember it. You remember just the stuff that remained, or just the stuff that won.
But I guess people on the right would say that there, like if you look at history, like there's certainly a trend towards the left.
No.
You don't think so? No.
No, the stuff that came from the left that was, reasonable, did get through and became, now became part of our culture. Yeah? So let's say gay rights. Yeah, the fact that it's not illegal to be homosexual anymore, and gays are now have equal rights. But I mean, all the communism and all all the stuff, so much stuff that was coming up from the left. You look at things that they were doing in the past. A lot of that was forgotten, or is seen as now is now they look at the past and say that was the right thing doing. That they see it as racist and say that this was the right doing it. I mean, they will look at 20 years from now. They will look back on today and say, "Oh, people were saying people of color, and people were calling people Latinx. Well, what awful racists they were back then." Yeah.
I guess I mean I guess when it comes to the communism thing, people on the right will say stuff like, "Well, that didn't work out." So Gramsci or whatever came up with this idea about the slow march through the institutions, and basically that's what you have right now.
He didn't win yet. He didn't win. And the fight goes on. Meanwhile, had the right wing in the 80s, right wing capitalist ideas coming through. I mean, look, Trump came in and lowered the tax on what was the name of that tax? Anyway, he took it down from 35%, the corporate tax, 35%, which it was for decades. He brought it down to 21%. And now Biden is trying to take it back up again, but not to 35, I think to 28. So right-wing stuff is also winning. There's also stuff that's coming from the right that becomes, the mainstream. That's this.
Yeah,
this idea
I guess. I guess when it comes to right-wing economic stuff, the pro-capitalist stuff. The problem with that, I feel like, because as you said, capitalism basically leads to more technological progress, and more technological progress leads to things like the basically gender roles disappearing or inversing, or basically men becoming weaker and so on and so forth. So I mean, you could argue that the reason why those quote unquote right wing pro-capitalist ideas were led through was because ultimately it would benefit the left to have more technology, right? You don't think so?
No.
I see.
No, that's really, I see reality as a lot more chaotic, I think, than the people on the kind of extreme right or extreme left see it, or even or even moderate. They tend to see patterns in history that they believe. Again, it's still this belief that history is going in one direction. History is a lot more chaotic than that.
I guess, for instance, Tor Agent in the chat says that Trump was a 90s Democrat, not right wing. Was he basically a 90s Democrat? Basically Bill Clinton 2.0?
Okay, but Bill Clinton was, compared to Democrats of the past, of the 70s, he was a lot more right wing, than the 70s Democrats. So he was kind of a figure that was kind of more centrist.
I guess another way to look at it is that if you took a right winger from now to the past, to say like a 40 or 50 years ago, he would be more left wing when compared to that to the past. But if you took a left winger now, would he also be like more left wing or less left wing? Because I don't know. Can you see what I mean?
In some ways, no. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no.
I mean, I guess in when it comes to you're talking mostly about the economics, right? When it comes to the economics,
everything, just ideas that come from the right, ideas that come from the left. Some win, some don't. And even the stuff that wins it's only temporary.
Have you heard of Jonathan Bowden? Jonathan Bowden, sorry.
No.
I sent you some videos about him. He's basically a far right reactionary or whatever, and he calls himself a Nietzschean, Um, and yeah, basically, academic agent came across people like Ebola and came back to Nietzsche as well through through this guy called Jonathan Bowden. So yeah, I would, because he, for instance, he argues that like Nietzsche's ideas are not compatible with liberal democracy. But you probably already agree with that. But still, I would.
Well, like I said, I'm making a video now, show how it
Yes.
can be. My claim is that Nietzsche came to some conclusions that are not, which I disagree with some of his conclusions, but I still maintain his basic ideas.
Would you describe Nietzsche as a reactionary, left wing or right wing? Because like there's people accusing him of being basically a proto-Nazi. I also sent you a video by Raka Ali because
I saw that you sent me. I will watch it. Look, Nietzsche was, just removed from anything that was going on, and most philosophers, you can't define them as, the great philosophers, you can't define them as either left wing or right wing. They just come up with a new worldview that you can take either left or right.
I guess do you think that he inspired Nazis? Because I basically what I did by sending you those links, I sent you a link by Raka Ali, who is an objectivist, basically calling Nietzsche somebody who inspired Nazis. And then I sent you a link to somebody who's actually on the reactionary right or the far right or whatever, who is into Nietzsche. And I mean it's not just Jonathan Bowden. You can also find people like Julius Evola, who claim to basically have taken the ideas from Nietzsche.
And then you find a lot of people on the left who are influenced by Nietzsche.
So I mean, do you? I guess so. So you don't think that there's anything to the accusations that Nietzsche inspired inspired?
There is. Yes, there is, of course. Inspired the Nazis. He inspired a lot of movements in the 20th century and 21st. His thinking was kind of.
So yeah, go on.
Yeah, he was the first to think beyond man, beyond this idea of the progress towards the perfection of man. And he said, no, man is just something that we need to surpass. And that kind of 20th century went in that direction. The thing, again, he has ideas that it's very rich. You can take his ideas to many places. The thing about the Nazis is that okay, so you can. The thing about the Nazis is that when they took over, they kind of claimed that Nietzsche, his real writings, were the stuff that he wrote in his notebooks and didn't publish. Whereas his published work, they said that was the thing that he wrote for the masses, and because of that, he didn't really, put out his real ideas in it. So he kind of softened it, and so he made it, as to make it look as if he was against anti-Semitism and all that. But actually, the real Nietzsche was, like us. He had Nazi ideas, and then they did have his notebooks, and you know they just took things out of context. That there was some Nazi philosophers and ideologues who would quote out of Nietzsche's notebooks out of context to just make it look like he support Nazi ideas. So yes, he did inspire the Nazis in some ways, but what they did with his writings, they completely subverted him. Yeah. So when they took over, they made him seem as if he was Nazi, which was not the case. So that's the story of Nietzsche and the Nazis, and I will probably make a video about it one day. But yeah, he inspired a lot of movements on the left and on the right. By the way, I am
Yes.
reading Ride the Tiger by Vola. I'm about halfway through it, and I am not impressed.
Why? I'm very curious.
First of all, his reading of Nietzsche, I think, is wrong. But okay, I need to read. This is first reading, and I need to. There's a few chapters that I need to read again more carefully because I'm not sure I really get what he's getting at, because I don't see the. Okay, I don't want to say anything about the Vola yet. I'm not done reading him. It's just.
I'm very curious about what he will come up with after you have read it, because basically he has become kind of popular on the reactionary right, because for among other reasons, because he calls himself a perennial traditionalist. So
yeah. I read about him. People said he was a proto-fascist and stuff like that. But I mean, Ride the Tiger is very individualist, very individualistic. So I don't know. Is that?
I think it's kind of supposed to be the idea that there's kind of no hope in politics left for the right, so you might as well focus on yourself. And basically create some kind of Leninist vanguard or something that maybe when at an historical point, when there actually is an opportunity for the right to actually get in power, there will be people who are ready, who are disciplined, and who have basically enough virtue in themselves to be of use. Because basically he thinks that the reason why fascism, Nazism, and all that failed was because the people in those movements were not good enough for the task which they set out to do. And about the perennial traditionalist point is more about so basically it's arguing that all traditions point to the same truth, which is, I don't know, kind of not really. I guess it's I don't know, like when it comes to a lot of these perennialist philosophers, it's like it's like they're saying ultimately all the religions are saying what my tradition, all the other traditions are saying what my tradition is saying after all, or something. But basically, because on the right you have pagans, Christians, Catholics, Protestants, and so on and so forth. The academic agent has a kind of picked, and obviously academic agent himself is an atheist. So that's why. And by the way, that guy Jonathan Bowden also has speeches on many other reactionary thinkers like Evola, Carlyle, and others. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would recommend you to look at Jonathan Bowden's speech on Julius Evola. I think it was called Julius Evola, uh, the most right wing thinker of all time, or something like that.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and as I said, I'm very interested to hear what you think about him. I'm kind of kind of a bit sad that you thought that well he wasn't such a good thinker after all. But as you said, you haven't finished reading him, so who knows?
Um, okay,
Yes.
let's go back to Withnail. Anything more? You said something about city.
Yes. So
City, yeah.
it's so you have a lot of fiction. Like it's another one of those things which the people on the right have complained about, which is that you have these city people centric kind of fiction, especially when it comes to horror, which they are like you will have like a bunch of city people moving to the countryside, and the people in the countryside end up being a bunch of murderous psychopaths or,
Mhm.
or something like that. But obviously, Withnail is not like that. But I guess, um, I mean, on the one hand, I kind of felt like um, it wasn't exactly the inverse, because it was kind of making fun of them, of both the countryside people and the city people coming in there. So basically, Withnail and Marwood.
Yeah,
But
I mean, 60s. It was, the country was still Victorian, and the city was already, yeah, hippie, kind of, yeah. So there was this clash, which we see in the movie. Yeah.
I guess the question is which side do you think is made to look better?
Uh,
Or
I think they're all kind of come off as a bit ridiculous. Um, but I don't know. I mean, the thing that struck me the most is that Withnail is just kind of the sociopathic in a way. He's just he's constantly lying. He's constantly putting. He's paranoid.
yes,
It's kind
I
of that they have paranoia, which probably comes from the drugs. The fact that they're so paranoid about everything. Uh, and they are basically terrified of the country people. Um, and in a way, because yeah, I mean, there are two. Again, it's the two 60s kind of bohemian people. Uh, in the country, people would look at them, like aliens, and there was the possibility of getting beat up. I don't know. I don't know so much about the UK, but in America, I mean, it's you there was all the story about the farmers and who were very puritanical and if they would see someone coming with kind of a hippie a man with kind of long hair and yeah, you could get beat up. Um, so I guess that's part of the paranoia, but it's a little hard to get it from the movie, if it's that or it's just the drugs.
yeah. I guess I guess I mean on the one hand, like Withnail and Marwood are basically a bunch of two or rather two dysfunctional losers. But I mean, did you feel like the film was like justifying that perspective, like because they were very negative about the 60s as a decade, about Britain, England as well. Like for example, when Withnail was basically like when he saw that sign on the side of the road saying that there are accidents there. Withnail said, "No, no, it's not there's no accidents there. It's people throwing themselves
Yeah.
on the road on purpose." I mean, did you feel like the film was vindicated? Like it's also hideous. Did you feel like the film was validating that point of view, that it was also hideous?
Like, no, I didn't get that.
No, all right.
I didn't get that. Well, there's there was this. I did get the feeling that they feel like everything kind of falling apart.
But you don't think that you didn't actually see everything falling apart? It's
no,
just
I'm, again, look, it's because the 60s were awesome in England. When you look, I mean, so much stuff was created and going on. Yeah, it's just the people who didn't know how to were still looking back in anger, like the famous 50s play, British play. That's was the empire just collapsed. The people were still living in Victorian kind of mindset, and it was hard for them to adjust to a new reality, and realize that actually there's a lot of awesome stuff going on around them.
I guess the reason that I asked that is because there's this idea on the right wing that like it was only like that the 60s were made to be like, especially in Britain. I don't know about America, but that like there were just a few places in Britain where like there was actually anything happening, anything like the sort of thing which people think about when they think about the 60s. But
Yes.
most of the country was actually normal. But after the 60s, it kind of I guess people kind of came to think that most people were living the sort of lifestyle of those artists and their communities and so on. But in reality, everything was fucking miserable. Unemployment was high. The empire had collapsed. Britain was humiliated during the Suez Canal crisis. But there were strikes. So basically this idea that the 60s was a fun period or whatever, that's just an illusion. But that was just something for just very few people.
Yes, I'm very much aware of this, and it is true. In England it was just in the cities. In America it was just a few blocks in New York and in San Francisco and Los Angeles, and that's it, basically, the 60s. Yeah. And it's true that it was mythologized later. And when I watched the Austin Powers movies, I don't know if you saw them. It was hard for me to laugh because it was entirely mythologizing the 60s, and I didn't. And because of that, I didn't get the jokes because they were relying on the mythology. and it made it seem like, the 60s were everybody was having a party, and in the 90s everybody is repressed. When it's actually the other way around. It was the other way around. Yes, the 60s, there were just a few people who were partying, and by the way, partying much too hard. Yeah, so they were. Very few people were doing sex and drugs, but those that were doing sex and drugs were doing way too many sex and drugs in the 60s. And
I mean,
but
was it like Danny in the movie, or was it that bad? The drug dealer,
oh yes,
Danny.
oh yes, oh yes, there were people like that. Yes, uh, people were just zonked. They were doing crazy stuff. You read it today. You read today things that they were doing. That it was you just it's shocking. And a lot of them, of course, didn't survive it. But look, this is how it. I mean, the Renaissance. Yeah, it was just a few people in Florence and Rome, and eventually they changed the world. They changed so it's the same thing. You have this small group of people, and it's and then it spreads through society because they were doing. I mean, what they were creating was awesome, and in the 70s already, the style, people were already very much affected by what happened in the 60s. The sexual, there was sexual promiscuity in the 70s. They were very promiscuous. The 70s were promiscuous. And the clothes and yeah, everybody was doing drugs, and yeah, a lot of people were doing drugs in the 70s. So yeah, this Danny, the same actor did basically the same character in Wayne's World Part 2.
What about his line about he was talking about, so that there used to be this chain store called Bullsbot, and one of the lines then he says that like they're selling hippie wigs at Woolworths. So basically, it has been commercialized. So basically, it has been defeated. Do you think that those values essentially became not genuine, inauthentic because they were commercialized?
That's all. That always happens. That's part of the game. You have a few short period when it's genuine, and when it's before it goes mainstream. Once it goes mainstream, it starts getting commercialized. It starts getting diluted. That's the rules. There's no way around it. And punk. When it came on, they were wearing part of the style was wearing safety pins. Yeah, safety pins to just show that you're not into fancy clothes. You're kind of poor. Yeah, you hold your clothes together with safety pins. Within months, they were already selling golden safety pins in the in the high fashion stores.
I mean, doesn't that mean that capitalism is effectively just corrupting anything and everything which could be genuine?
But yeah, but again, that's the rules of it's even before capitalism, and the thing is that through that you get your values to the mainstream, because the mainstream kind of swallows you and commercializes. It it also incorporates your values, the thing that your message to the world. So your message spreads through that. Yeah, it's a meme. It's that's the process. And that's how we talked about revitalizing the culture. That's how it gets revitalized. When people come up, like I said, there's a small group of people that nobody knows about them. They're creating something genuine. Eventually, it grows. The industry hears about it. It starts getting commercialized, and the ideas spreads through that, and they also get diluted. And then you lose then you lose, and then the why is David Bowie my idol? Because his answer to that was that you go back again to the margins, and you create something new all the time. You always when you get commercialized, you just when you get corrupted, you just leave it behind and create something new.
So basically, the answer to Danny's dilemma, like when he says that, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's basically it was basically about a man when someone is holding on to a balloon, like you either have the choice to let go, or to see for how long you can keep on holding on to it. So basically, you should just let it go. Yeah, I see. And I guess at the end, well, I'm not sure about Withnail, but Marwood does let it go, right? He basically lets go of.
I know he becomes I think more. He goes straight. He cuts his hair. He becomes part of the he sells out basically.
Yes, yeah, but isn't that what they're saying though, that that's basically what, like why did he need to prolong his misery? Shouldn't he have just let go of the balloon, let go, and just sold out earlier on? Isn't that what the movie is saying, or rather, what is your answer to that?
Well, now that you put it this way, I think it is. I think that he was living in a toxic environment, which was holding him back because he apparently has talent. He's a theater guy, which, by the way, was already a dying medium. But he was, still, and and it was holding him back. But you can either do that. There's always a choice. If you want to do that, and if you want to go straight, fine. And or you do the Bowie thing and try to remain, it's the live fast, die young ethos, which Bowie basically overcame, because he was live fast, but if you change all the time, you don't have to die. You just get. Are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you. Yes.
Okay, so because my computer suddenly came back to life as I was talking to Revitalize. Okay, so oh no, actually no, just the screen now turned white. It was dark, now it turned white. Oh, there we go. Back. So yeah, so you either and at some point, Bowie felt like, okay, I don't want to do that anymore, and and he became more just became more stable, and got married and all that, and had a family and all that. Became a family man, and at some point you have to do that, yeah. but the secret is doing it on your own terms, and I think that well, I mean, he got what he wanted.
Because on the right, I kind of feel like there's this criticism of youth culture that it's basically these overgrown man children like Withnail and Marwood who do not want to leave their adolescence because it would mean selling out. Um, they do not want to be normal, because to be normal would be to be like all the other characters, or rather, well, except Danny and presuming Ed. I guess like basically to be normal, like the farmer, and uh, um, uh, so because on the one hand, it is true that the film is making them look bad. It is making look Withnail and Marwood look bad, but at the same time, it's also making him seem more charismatic and passionate compared to like the normal grown up people who who are basically either stiff, or it's like that guy running the pub who
Yeah, that's the story of the modern age, and the once once the bourgeois became the middle class, became the leading class, it was the thing. Okay, that's what you had to. That was the ideal. That became the ideal. That you get, you are a working man. You have a good job. You form a family. You have a nice home. And that's the ideal. That was the ideal of the modern age of the middle class. And for many young people, that seemed terrible. That seemed boring. And from the beginning, from the romantics, yeah, Shelley and Byron and all those guys, and there was always the rebellion against it. Always the rebellion against it, of those who didn't want to conform to that. The apotheosis was in what I call the rock and roll period, when youth culture, when the youth actually created its own culture. It became a world in its own, with its own values and its own and it's through rock and roll that every few. But what happened then was, every 3-4 years you had a new generation, and those that were before were now boring old has-beens, which had no choice to and had to just go into the and become adults, or you could do the Bowie thing and keep on changing and remaining young for as long as but remaining young, not in a stupid way, not as being a man baby, but as being someone who is still relevant and creative and all that, but eventually also Bowie also, so he showed us ways that eventually you have to become just
has been.
not a has-been, but someone who just say, okay, I'm done. I've done my thing. There's no, it's no fun anymore. I mean, this is ashes to ashes. This is the burial of Major Tom. Major Tom is the astronaut that always goes out and out of the world. And I don't want to be Major Tom anymore. I don't feel that need anymore. I don't feel that passion anymore. And then now I'm feel happy being just a family man.
I guess,
and you get to that point eventually,
but
naturally.
no, I mean, I mean, don't you think that there are a lot of people who didn't grow up? I guess. I guess it's maybe even if it's not natural, it's something that people can reach. But which do you think is more authentic and natural, because like on the right, a lot of people would say that this is not natural. It's astroturfed by the media, because and by capitalists, because it's useful for them to have this basically a bunch of man children who will keep on just buying their product and being excited for next product. I mean, do you think? But I guess what it comes down to in the end is that a lot of people on the right would say that no, it like that even before bourgeois culture became mainstream culture, it was still normal for people to set up families and settle down, and that is what is authentic, and not this hedonistic and novelty seeking.
But that's an exaggeration, because most people still form families, have children, and settle down. And the thing about the cyber period is which started with the internet, is that you can, because before that, once you had a family, once you became a family man, you were basically that's it. You were doomed to basically live in your small world with your small circle of family and friends, and you were no longer part of culture. And after the internet, that changed things. You can be a family man and still be part of what's going on. Just because, yeah.
But doesn't that mean that you can never escape from mass culture? I mean, unless you go and live in the woods or something. It's almost.
Why would you want to escape?
I mean, but isn't it almost totalitarian? I guess. Basically every aspect of your life is determined by what other people think about you on the internet or whatever. Even if it's not the government, who cares?
Only that's only if you let them. But it is true, and I said that your life is being less and less, more and more, less and less private. More and more, more and more of it is out there. And there's a good thing to it. It means that you basically, everything in you has become bigger. It now has an extension to the world. Yeah, things that were in the past were just yours have now become bigger, and they are extending with the world, and you can enjoy it. But on the other hand, it makes you kind of part of kind of a loose freedom. This is Marshall McLuhan, in the 60s, said that mediums, humans created technologies. Every technology that they created, every medium that they created, was an extension of the human, either body, like the wheel was an extension of the foot or whatever, or of the nervous system, like the communications and all that. And at first, for millennia, these extensions made the world bigger for humans, because it allowed them to travel more, to travel farther, and so it made the world bigger for them. But then at some point, it started to make it smaller, because of this process. It became a global village, and as I said, now it's become a global ant colony. Yeah, so it has made your world smaller.
I mean, an ant colony. I mean, an ant colony is not exactly a totalitarian state, but I mean, doesn't it make it less make your life less genuine in a sense, because you are for a lot of people, like everything that they say is um, they kind of have to mind either the political culture or whatever.
On the internet, only on the
Yeah,
internet. If you have private conversation with people you know, you can stay. You can still say whatever you want. And remember, before that, you just didn't have internet. It's not like you lost anything. You just, you have this internet now, which kind of sucks right now because you can't say what you want on the internet. But it's not like you lost anything. It's not like before that you could before there was internet, you just didn't have internet. And now that you have internet, unfortunately, it's become very censorious. But and again, but new mediums are always censorious at first. It's always they're always seen as corrupting the youth. Again, I dealt with it in the book. Yes, in my book. Yeah, comic books were censored. Yeah, rock and roll was censored. Cinema, Hollywood was censored.
but I guess wouldn't it have been better if it was all censored, even the books, because I mean it just becomes more and more abstract. Like I mean the whole Ted Kaczynski thing. The the Unabomber. Yeah, I mean, well, wasn't he kind of right? Because people are doing more and more things which are not. I mean, I think he called it over socialization or something. I mean, like early, like you said that earlier people just didn't have the internet, but really, but the internet also changes a lot of other things. For example, dating.
Yeah.
And so that makes a big difference. Or for example, like for a lot of people, like it's relevant to their job. Like your employer might look at what you're saying online, and given that for a lot of people, their online identity is increasingly becoming the same as their offline identity. That means that they can get fired for whatever they said on Twitter or Facebook. Yes. So it's not.
So be smarter. Look at me. I tweet very little. I never do anything in my tweets. I'm never personal. I have a persona. Serpent is a persona, and I'm letting the persona speak and speak online, but even that speak very little.
But isn't the persona like less genuine, less authentic than your real self? So
no, it's an extension of me. It's an extension of myself, which exists online, and I put into it the parts of me that are relevant to it, and then when I turn on, when I'm away from my laptop, I'm not that person.
So you don't think that it's like a mask that or like I don't know, the layer of an onion, like you need or rather that you need to peel it out to see the real person. You don't think
no, but I don't believe in the real person. You remember, I'm Nietzschean. I'm Nietzschean. Remember, there's no. I'm a philosopher of becoming. There's no grain, the real thing. It's all just ever changing.
But if it's so, if there's no real thing, then I mean, aren't things like gender, race, nationality, like they're also not real, right? By that.
Depends what you call real. Real in the way that you described it before. Real means stable. Real means never changing.
But if it can change to anything, then what it does, it isn't really any one thing, is it?
when you ask someone like me, a philosopher of becoming, you define real differently. Real is what is real at that moment, and the moment can be long lasting. The moment can be, for a nation, it can be thousands of years. Uh, so, but it's not like there are people who believe, let's say, that the Jewish nation is, it's eternal. It's from God.
But,
I see it as something that was constructed at some point,
yes,
and that is ever changing, but it's still real. It's real. It exists.
but I guess shouldn't, like, obviously nothing is eternal. But shouldn't you aim to make it as stable and unchanging as possible? I mean, if you keep on changing it, aren't you destroying it?
No, no. If it's strong, again, we talked about this process, yeah. That the new things become part of it. It internalizes the new thing when it is strong. When it is strong, and yes, at some point, everything everything comes to an end. So something comes up which transforms it in a way that it cannot internalize it, and it gets basically it destroys it. And there's always the thing that there's always the change that basically destroys it.
I mean,
Yeah.
from your perspective, your persona might be real because it's an extension of yourself. But I guess from the perspective of the consumer, so like another thing which right wingers criticize mass culture for is that you basically get these celebrities who people follow, and but like there's nothing, and I mean, like, how can I explain it? The, the celebrity that they think that they are following might not be this person who it's a parasocial relationship. If you like, that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, right? Parasocial. Well, I don't know. At least on the right, I hear that a lot. Like people complaining that, for instance, people have parasocial relationships with YouTubers, who they feel like they know them, who they are, but they don't really know them. Um, just because they watch their videos. Whereas without this technology, without mass media, essentially, people would actually know each other for real or something. Can you see what I mean?
Yes, but again, it's art. In the rock and roll period, it was the rock stars, and they would be, again, personas which would represent something, represent an identity, which for some people uh, allowed them to express something that they felt inside. So it became your persona as well, and it's and then you became through that identity, you also developed your own identity. You kind of adopted the identity of the star, but that also uh, because it's not because you worshipped him or something, but because it's allowed you to express something that you felt inside, and was unable to express yourself until that rock and roller or any musician out of personality. So it is a bit more blurry. With the rock and rollers, it was obvious that it was a persona. With the YouTubers, it isn't that obvious because you see them, talking, and you do get a lot of the real person. It's hard to hide. It is a persona, but there is it's more similar to the real person. It's not like a rock star putting on makeup and just assuming
Yeah.
something completely different character on stage. And yes, so I see how it can get blended, but it is a healthy process. That is what you do as a young person. You find those role models, and they help you express yourself, and then you build your own personhood out of that. So I can see how how this with YouTubers how it can become a problem. That you feel you might become obsessive because you feel like you know them and you kind of you start to develop feelings for them. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and another problem, of course, is that if you base everything on the truth of the moment, which is to say your feelings at the moment, and I know this is kind of the objectivist criticism of this, I guess, this idea of becoming, I guess. But your feelings change all of the time. So, but don't you need to have something stable? Because, like, haven't a lot of problems like for like where basically people being unable to keep their promises, essentially. Like people getting divorced or abandoning their children just because, like, oh, I just don't feel like it. I just don't feel like becoming a functional human being. I just feel like masturbating all day and giving away all my money to some
You really
woman on
think you have
Twitch.
control over? I mean, falling out of love with someone? It's
No, but
you change. You
no,
change.
but I guess what I'm saying is that if you want a functional society, you need people to be able to act the same way despite what they might feel
Right.
about it. Like it's their
Right.
duty.
So
So it's your duty, for instance, to look after your children
yes,
and not to
yes,
break off your
yes.
your
And
promise
this
as a
is why,
marriage.
society gives you a number, just a social, an identity number, social security, whatever. So you have an official identity, which remains, which is that's your social identity, the identity of towards the state, and that you can't escape that unless you immigrate to another state.
But it's not just about the state to the state, but also to other people around you. How can they depend on
Yes.
you if you?
Okay. Yes. Yes. It is, and the thing is, yes, if you have a relationship, if you have, let's say, a family relationship with something, family ties are strong. They survive. Like I said before about identities, yeah, that they can survive changes. It internalizes the change, and it so your relationship with someone might change. It's not the same, but you still have the bond. You still have that relationship, and then someday it might break. That's the way we are. It's not something you can't decide. I'm going to love this person for the rest of my life. You just can't.
No, but
It's not. That's not how it works.
what I mean is that whether you love them or not, it's more likely that you will end up loving them if you can't just if run away from your relationship just because of your feelings. If for instance you can't just get divorced from them very easily, um, if you're forced to be with them, if you're forced to not be bent by your every whim, if you're forced to not become a slave to your vices, essentially, and your passions, um, then it's much more likely that you will end up getting a more functional relationship with others, and also like a more functional society, isn't it?
Yes, but you are now talking about exactly not what I'm talking about. Yeah, a slave to your passions is not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about changing. I'm talking about some following something that is much deeper, and you develop. It's not about just your emotions. So okay, look, I think we've been talking for more than 2 hours, and I need to do some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this video is really getting long. I really enjoyed this conversation. We covered a lot of things, and kind of Withnail and I.
Yeah. I hope that I hope we can talk again about something else next time. So yeah. Right.
So
Bye then.